In this lecture, we're going to be talking about the informative speech, which is going to be one of the upcoming projects for this class. Now, before we actually get into the details of how you put together an informative speech, let's talk just a little bit about the language you're going to be using. First of all, language is an art if you do it properly, if you are clear in the way that you're speaking. Using language involves choosing and using words that relate to your intended purpose and the meaning for a specific audience. They have connotative as well as denotive meanings, and if they express different ideas, audience members will attach whichever meaning they usually associate with that word. So you need to be very, very careful about the words that you choose. When the speaker and the listener agree on the meaning, then the communication is effective. Now, maybe you remember a recent experience where you gave directions to someone, or you got directions for someone, and then you still ended up going the wrong way. How about the time you followed those easy directions and discovered that basically it was just easier to do the trial and error method? A lot of informing was going on, but much of it was confusing. And that's the way a lot of our communication is today, especially when we are talking with public speaking. This assignment is going to give you a chance to develop your language and organizational skills and reduce maybe some of that fuzziness that gets attached to messages to an audience. Your purpose with this assignment, this speech, is to inform. And perhaps no one can be totally informative because speakers and audiences do both filter information through biases. We have those biases, we have those experiences, those cultural differences sometimes through which we filter messages. So again, not always going to be the exact message getting through, but hopefully if you follow this assignment properly, then you'll be closer to getting your message through. The subject of the speech, the informative speech, is going to be an explanation of a process or a procedure. It's a description of an object, a place, structure, animal, person, event, concept, and we'll get into all of this in detail here in just a moment. All of you must have your topics approved by me in advance because we want to make sure that this is an informative speech, not a persuasive speech. And I'll tell you when we get together next week how you are going to let me know about that topic. Again, major objective of the speech: convey a clear and thorough understanding of the subject. It is not intended to be persuasive. Your thesis should be a single declarative sentence. Thesis, remember, your central or main point of your speech should be at the top of the outline and announced after the introduction of your speech. Speech must be based on at least 3 outside sources of information, and I usually require that those outside sources be in written form or print sources of some type. They can come from the internet, but it should be like from a book that you've gotten to over the internet, or maybe a Time or Newsweek or Sports Illustrated or a scholarly article. It should be a print source of some type where the author can definitely be considered credible. The outline requirements from the previous speeches apply. You've already gotten a copy of the outline and how I want that put together. You will follow the same. Also, I want a complete bibliography placed at the back of each outline to support your points. And now, having given you just some of the basic information, let's get into a little more detail here. First of all, let's talk about the difference between the informative or the persuasive speech. Now, the primary goal with an informative speech is to share information and ideas, and you're going to do that same thing with a persuasive speech. But the difference is informative speeches have zero persuasive appeal. It does not ask for any change in action from the audience. Again, you are trying to merely inform, instruct, tell someone how to do something. You're not asking them to take some kind of action. You're not pleading for them to get involved in a cause. That is a persuasive speech, which we will do later. Good informative speeches do not persuade. They simply clarify. They define something. They demonstrate something. They create understanding. And yes, they do analyze in some cases, but the bottom line is to inform someone. The topics are the toughest step when you're trying to create an informative speech. Try for novelty, try for creativity. The type of informative speech, no matter what is used, will not follow a logical pattern. Now think of this. The logical progression or logical pattern is something that is used with problem solution. Again, we're going back to the persuasive idea. If we are trying to follow the logical pattern, then chances are you're trying to persuade somebody to do something, and so you will go in a logical step-by-step. Here's the problem, here's how it came about, here's how we solve it, here's what you need to do. Do not use that type of format for the informative speech. What you want to do is to use chronological. If you are telling us how to build something, all right, here's where we start, here's where we go next, here's the next step on through to the finished product. If you're going to describe something that's spatial, you're informing us about the new Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas. You're going to talk about the space and how it's laid out, and maybe you want to talk about the room that you're wanting to build. Again, you can either go step by step, chronologically, or you can talk about the space and how you want to lay it out. Topical is another way. Let's say you want to talk about the issue of what happened in Egypt over the last few weeks. Well, you're talking about the topic and the various issues that came into play in going from small crowds assembling in Tahrir Square all the way through the changing of the guard, where they are now getting ready to have special elections sometime in the next year to elect a brand new president. So again, topical there. Chronological, spatial, topical. Now the process, how something is done, that is the chronological way of doing it. Explain it step by step. Could be lengthy, like this discussion we're having right now. We're going through how to create an informational speech, so it may take us an extra lecture to get through this one topic. Again, chronological organization is a good way to do this. In addition to talking about how to create this speech, how do you apply for financial aid? How do you burn a CD? How does a virus infect us? How do you make a grilled cheese sandwich? That could be an informative speech if you do it properly. Now the object, we're talking about an object that you're wanting to describe or inform us about. Something that's not stationary probably would be one thing. Tools, weaponry, clothes, your car, those sorts of things would be the way you those would be some topics under object. Also, places, you want to describe a place. Maybe you want to describe what the campus is like at OSU OKC. Maybe you want to describe to the rest of us who maybe are not natives of Oklahoma what Oklahoma City is like, or the state of Oklahoma is like. How is it different from other states? You're just informing us of giving us the information of what it's like and how it's different. You're not trying to get us to commit to the fact that maybe it is the greatest state in the country. That would be on your persuasive speech. You just merely want to tell us the facts about Oklahoma. Some other ideas perhaps that we could take a look at. Structure. We talked about the new Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas. What is that like? The architecture. You could talk about cathedrals. You could talk about the Redwood Forest or the Grand Canyon. Maybe you've been there. Alcatraz, the Vietnam War Memorial. A number of different things you can look at for structure. And again, probably you would use the spatial outline to describe that. Animals. Animal itself is unique, or it's give us a characteristic of it. I like to talk at length about my dog, which is a Catahoula, and a lot of people have not heard of a Catahoula, so I like to tell them that a Catahoula is a Louisiana breed of dog that was primarily bred to herd wild pigs and cattle in the swamps of Louisiana, and that they're extremely friendly dogs. Require lots of attention. You don't want them for an apartment dog. They're an outdoor dog, although they can become an extremely, extremely loyal family friend. That could be a speech about an animal. You could also talk about sharks or dolphins or horses, or how difficult it is for panda bears to reproduce in public. Just some ideas on animals. Person. You want to describe a person to us. Try to avoid a biography. Look at significant contributions. For example, how did Michael Jordan change the way we view basketball? How has Tiger Woods changed golf over the last few years? You could look at women in Middle Eastern cultures. You could look at elderly people in Far Eastern cultures. Your subject could be someone who is current or someone who is dead. But don't get into the biography, but get into how they affect us. How have they, another possible example, let's go back to the Egyptian scenario we were talking about a couple of moments ago, where we had someone who got on Google and Facebook, and because of that, he started a social revolution that toppled an entire government. You could talk about that person and what he did in order to get other people involved and actually make a change in his world. There's also events that you could talk about. Something that you've attended, something you want to go to, maybe an OSU football or basketball game. Maybe you're a motorcycle rider and you'd like to go to Sturgis, or you've been to Sturgis for the rally out in South Dakota. Then there's also concept topics: time, terrorism, abuse, ethnic cleansing, family values. Now, again, you need a thesis statement. It needs to state the purpose of the speech, which is to inform and contain the central idea. Basically, it's a preview in one declarative sentence. You want to try to give listeners a reason to pay attention. You want to justify the topic and tell them, why should we listen? Why should we care about what it is you're wanting to talk about? Topics are individual. Again, I want you to clear them through me. In fact, when you come to give your narrative speech next week, bring the topic that you want to discuss in your informative speech, and we'll talk about it at that time. So be prepared to do that. Also, avoid should or need to in your statements. If you're talking about something you should do, or you need to get involved in this, or you need to do this, then you are no longer informing, you are persuading. Some examples again. Doodling is a national pastime which represents real desires, emotions, or thoughts. There are 4 principal divisions of a family apartment in a longhouse. Bats are highly unusual mammals that are often understood. All right, just some basics now on the informative speech. We are going to wrap it up with this particular lecture here, and we will pick it up in a couple of days, talking about the body of the speech and how you do citations within the speech, how you use note cards and that sort of thing. That will be in the upcoming lecture, which will come out either tomorrow or Friday. In the meantime, have a great day and good luck getting your topic picked out on this speech.